A mop, a broken watch, an empty wallet. One woman on a dusty road between night and dawn. She was just cleaning the base until a red dot slid across her bucket and an armed intruder whispered her name. Stay. She doesn't run. She hunts. Night thinned the base into hard shapes, doors, vents. The long hush of corridors that held their breath. Sopiha Mitchell rolled her cart over tile that gleamed like standing water. She liked the silence. It didn't judge. It didn't call. It just listened. Her watch was cracked. The glass caught light and broke it into a small star on her wrist. It had stopped at 02:17 a year ago, in a life she didn't talk about. She kept wearing it. A stubborn promise to herself. Time could quit. She wouldn't. The cart's wheels squeaked once every fourth turn. That and the far hum of generators and the soft scrape of her mop. She wiped a hand on her apron and felt the edge of her empty wallet in the pocket. It bent like tired cardboard. No money tonight. Rent due on Tuesday. She smiled at the small cruelty of it. You could be brave in bigger ways than paying bills. But still, it pinched. She paused at a window. The desert slept outside like a great animal. The runway looked like a dusty road drawn with a ruler. Everything straight. Everything contained. She breathed out fog against the glass, then moved on. At the junction by the east wing, a door stood shy of closed. A hairline. No one left it like that. She stopped. The mop dripped once, twice, like a clock that had found its voice again. She slid her badge and pushed the door with 2 fingers. The hinge made a sound like a throat clearing. Inside, the lights were low. The big room wore its shadows like a coat. A wrench on the floor did not belong. It pointed at a wall panel that was open by an inch. She crouched. The panel's screws lay in a neat line like teeth pulled and set aside. Her radio hissed weakly. "All good?" a bored voice asked. "All fine," she said, and did not believe herself. She rose and traced a circle with the mop, slow, casual. Her ears listened elsewhere. A breath, not hers. The kind you feel on the back of your neck before you admit you feel it. She set the mop across the bucket and reached under the cart for a small flashlight she wasn't supposed to have. Oh, click. She kept it dead and used it as weight in her hand. It felt honest there. Boot prints bloomed in the high gloss. Wet. Fresh. They curved past the crates and vanished into a thin hallway where the air got cold. She followed. One step. Another. The smell changed. Ozone. Hot metal waking from sleep. A drop of red light slid across the rim of her bucket back in the room. It crawled toward the mop's wooden handle, steady as a thought. She didn't move. The dot stopped, then climbed the doorframe and came to rest on the crooked glass of her broken watch. A voice near the dark said, calm, almost polite. Sopiha Mitchell. Her name in a stranger's mouth. Dry sand in the throat. She raised the dead flashlight like a baton and took one silent step into the cold hallway. Just as the lights cut out and a gloved hand closed around her wrist. The grip was firm, not cruel, practiced. She turned with it, not against it, and slid her wrist free like a key from a lock. The hand didn't chase. It withdrew. The darkness breathed again. Scream and I shoot, the voice said. No anger. A weather report. Bad aim in the dark. She whispered, a soft laugh. Not happy. Not for me. Her eyes learned the hallway by shape. The black door on the left had a dent at shin height. The cable trench made a thin line down the middle. Farther on, the maintenance closet door sat open 2 fingers wide. She mapped it all and kept breathing from the belly. Quiet. Even. Something clicked. Metal on metal. Not the clean snick of a safety. A suppressor's kiss, why my name? She asked to move his timing, not for answers. You leave fewer footprints when people believe you have none, he said. But the floor tells the truth. Her hands remembered. Not the how of violence, the when. She stepped into the maintenance closet and let the dark swallow her. The smell of lemon cleaner and old dust met her like family. She found the bottom shelf by the bruise of her shin. Duct tape, rope, a coiled extension cord as heavy as confession. She took the cord in her left hand and a metal dustpan in her right. The hall breathed again. A tiny scrape of a boot turning heel. He was patient. Good. That made him predictable. She moved the cord across the floor like a snake and lifted the dustpan high, fingers on the lip. The broken watch pressed into her skin. 2:17, a stubborn star. He came close. The air cooled. Base is closed, he said softly. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't either, he took one more step. She threw the dustpan 2 doors down. It clanged, loud as thunder in that hush. He pivoted toward it, and she pulled the cord up and forward with her hip. Hard, fast, teaching the floor to catch a leg. He fell with the careful grace of a man who had fallen before. The shot that should have filled her took the shelf and punched holes in bottles that bled ammonia. The sting bit her eyes. She jumped over him, not away. He rolled under her like a wave. His elbow found air where her throat should have been. She ducked. Her knee found the soft space where ribs turn weak. He hissed, not pain, information, another shot. The light switch behind her cracked and spat a brief white flower. For a heartbeat she saw him. Black cap. Clean jaw. A scar like a comma beside his mouth. Eyes too calm, then dark again. Her radio woke in her pocket. Static. A voice trying to be born. Sector E report. He shot the radio by sound. Sparks turned the closet into a snow globe of light. She used that. She saw the muzzle. Saw the line of his shoulder. She kicked the door into his wrist. The suppressor hit the tile with a soft, wrong sound. They both knew he would win a long fight. He had the tools. She had a cart and a broken watch. She did not give him a long fight. She fled, past the sour stink of ammonia, past the wet prints that now smeared her own. Back into the big room that had too much quiet and not enough people. She reached for the fire pole and paused. The base would wake like a struck hive. Good. Bad. Both. Her empty wallet slid in her pocket when she moved. It felt like the shape of everything she didn't have. Money. Time, a safety net. It also felt like a choice. She pulled the alarm. Sirens yawned themselves raw. Red strobes sliced the dark into bite-sized warnings. Water hammered out of the ceiling in a cold sheet. Her world turned to rain in a desert. He didn't swear. He didn't need to. He came through the water like a cut in a curtain. She threw the mop at his face and ran across the slick floor, straight toward the east hangar, where the doors had been closed for months and the roomers kept their own counsel. Behind her, a new sound rose. Not his boots. Others. More than one pair. Rushing. The hive had woken. She reached the big hangar door and yanked the manual override. It groaned. It lifted 2 feet. She rolled under and into the dark belly of the base, just as the barrel of a different gun dipped to meet her at eye level from the shadows inside. The barrel hovered like a blunt finger. Her breath made ghosts in the cold air. Don't shoot, someone shouted, a woman's voice. Sharp but steady, flashlights bloomed. Figures formed. 3 security techs in wet uniforms and wide eyes. One of them, a captain by the bars on her collar, lowered the gun first. You pulled the alarm? The captain asked. Yes, Sopiha said. Good. Stay behind us, the captain signaled. The team moved like a sentence with no wasted words. They were good, but they had never met this night. The night wasn't about skill. It was about nerve and guessing right. Sopiha pointed at the door. He's here, suppressor, knows the building. Kills radios by ear. The captain glanced at her watch. Not broken. Not 0217, a living line ticking under glass. Name? Mitchell, custodial. The captain blinked once. That was all, no smirk. No wasted doubt. Mitchell, stay close. They crossed the hangar floor in a breath-holding silence. The strobes from outside got in through high windows and painted red squares on the concrete. Big shapes slept under tarps. The air tasted of oil and winter. Boots whispered on wet dust. The prince told a story, one set. Long stride. Confident. It stopped by a control console and turned toward the locked cage at the back. The cage hummed faintly as if it dreamed. The captain raised 2 fingers. The tech on the left went light-footed toward the console. The one on the right covered the cage. Sopiha stood between them and felt useless and necessary at the same time. She touched the broken watch. It felt like prayer and defiance. Something thumped behind the tarp of the nearest sleeping shape. Not big, not small. That size that matters, the captain aimed. Identify. The tarp breathed. Sopiha stepped to the side, off the line of fire. She moved like a mop moves when no one is watching, casual, inevitable. She caught the edge of the tarp and yanked it down in a wet slide. A small wheeled drone crouched like a beetle under the rib cage of the covered shape. The drone held a simple job. Cameras when people didn't want to crawl. Its dark eye looked at her without blinking. Its light was off. Its casing was scratched like it had met someone unkind. The captain frowned. Ours, looks like. Tether is cut, said the tech. The drone's eye blinked once, woke, then rolled itself back toward a narrow crack under the big machine, too narrow for a hand to follow. No, Sopiha said, and dropped flat. She shoved her arm into the crack and heard her sleeve grind against old grit. She felt the drone's cold shell with her fingers and grabbed. It fought in a way machines should not fight. With decision, she dragged. It whined like a living thing in pain. The captain's flashlight held steady. Mitchell, I've got it. A high tone cut the air. The drone's eye went solid red. Not ours, bomb? The tech asked. Not big, Sopiha said. But loud, she pulled harder. The drone kicked like a mule. Metal sliced the skin at her wrist. She bled warmth into the cold floor. The broken watch snagged on a bolt, as if it wanted to give more than time. It held for her. The second hand, dead for a year, looked like it tried to move, then didn't. She grinned at the foolish thought and yanked one more time. The drone broke free into her palm. She rolled onto her back, cradling it like a live coal. The captain didn't need a word. She saw the red eye and made a choice. Oink, door! The tech hit the nearest emergency door with his shoulder. It cracked open like a stubborn jar. Sopiha pitched the drone through the gap into the wet night. It hit the cement, spun once, and bloomed in a blue-white flash that erased the hangar shadows for a heartbeat. The echo came back a second later, late and hungry. Silence returned, thin and shocked. The captain looked at Sopiha like she had asked her a hard question and liked the answer. Mitchell, you're not just... A shot punched the concrete near the captain's boot. Another kissed the metal of the cage and made it ring like a bell in a drowned church. Positions, the captain shouted. The intruder had climbed high. He shot from somewhere above the catwalk, making angles a human would not love. He moved without hurry. He had plans that told him not to rush. Sopiha watched the catwalk shadows breathe and saw a gap that didn't belong. Not a person. A cable looped where a cable shouldn't. A trip or a tether. She slid along the wall and lifted the dead flashlight like a small, dumb lure. She tossed it toward the wrong shadow. The tether snatched it midair. A snare. He had strung the hangar for mice. He spoke from the dark, almost fond. You learned, Sopiha. You still make it interesting. Her throat tightened at the way he said her name. Who are you? The captain called. He answered her instead. I know the watch. I know the day it stopped. Sopiha lowered her head. The cold visited her bones. Another shot came, deliberate. It took the corner of the cage's lock. Sparks spat. The humming inside rose like a throat clearing to sing. The door shivered on its hinges. The cage held something the base had kept very quiet. The third shot would break it. Sopiha ran before. She could think what a bad idea that was. Straight, across open floor toward the climbing shadow and the patient muzzle that waited for the third note. The muzzle dipped to greet her, slow. Like a nod, he fired. Sound left the world for a breath. The bullet kissed metal near her shoulder instead of heart. The captain's shot found the catwalk post and shredded it into bright splinters. The intruder dropped 3 feet, caught a rail, rolled, and ran like a shadow made of purpose. He didn't run toward the door. He ran toward the ceiling hatch that opened onto the service roof as if the sky had invited him. Sopiha climbed after him. The ladder burned cold under her hands. Her wrist bled a little. The broken watch drank it and told no one. She burst onto the roof and swallowed night air that tasted of dust and siren light. The base below looked like a town waking to a mistake. He cut across the roof line in neat diagonals. He moved like a man who had studied this building when it wasn't wearing alarms. Stop, she shouted, and understood the word had never stopped anyone she'd aimed it at. He reached the far edge and dropped without looking. She reached the edge and looked because she always would. A service stair fell in a straight spine to a narrow lane behind the maintenance sheds. The lane went to a back gate that opened onto the access road. And the access road meant the desert. And the desert meant the world. She jumped and landed like she remembered how to when she was 20. The shock climbed her bones and knocked on her teeth. She ran. He cleared the back gate with grace the world doesn't give often. She reached the gate a breath later and shoved through a gap someone had left for luck. The access road waited, white with dust. It ran to the highway in a line so true it hurt. A truck idled near the chain-link fence. Old, tan. The kind you don't remember when you're asked later. The passenger door stood open as if it wanted to be kind. He slid in and the engine grinned. Gravel spit from under the tires. The truck took the road like a promise. She ran after it until running became the wrong verb. She slowed. She stood in the glow of dust and exhaust and old stars. The base sirens behind her turned to smaller sounds. The desert in front of her turned to larger ones. Wind, distance, a long empty map. Her wallet was still empty. The watch was still broken. The road was still dusty. She smiled, not like a joke. Like a dare. Sarge, a voice called from behind. Not to her, to a memory. No one called her that now. She turned. The captain stood at the fence, hair wet with sprinkler water, breath showing in the cold. We'll send units, she said. He'll be gone before units find their boots, Sopiha said. You should get checked out. I should, she agreed. She didn't move. The captain studied her. You know him. I know his type, Sopiha said. It was almost the truth. The deeper truth walked ahead of her in a dust plume. The captain nodded at the horizon. We can't leave the wire protocol. I can, Sopiha said. The captain's face made a decision. She pulled a small key from her pocket and held it through the fence diamonds. Maintenance pool car, she said. You didn't get it from me. Sopiha took the key. It felt like a coin before a wish. What's your name? She asked. Reyes. Thank you, Reyes. Bring it back, Reyes said and tried to hide a smile. Bring you back. Sopiha found the pool car in the lot by smell. All State Fleet cars smell the same. Dry air, old polish. A life of waiting. The engine coughed and then decided to live. She took the access road and let the tires write a new story over the old one. The highway met her without judgment. The truck's taillights were gone, but the dust still told its tale. It drifted like the afterthought of a comet. She followed the line like a finger on a scar. 15 miles out, the truck turned off where the asphalt forgot itself and became a track. Low scrub lined the shoulders like tired guards. The track ran between hills that looked like sleeping things. She eased onto it and killed her headlights. The moon helped enough. The track climbed. The car struggled and complained and kept going. The broken watch watched her not watch the time. She reached a ridge and stopped. Below, a basin. In the basin, a shed that had loved electricity once. A generator box squatted by the door like a dog. The tan truck idled near it, breathing slow. She left the car and went to ground. The dust kissed her knees and palms. The desert let her be small. She crawled to the lip of the ridge and looked down on the shed with the kind of patience you only find when there's no plan B. A shape moved by the door. Taller in the moonlight, coat pulled tight. He looked up toward the ridge but not at her. He looked at the sky like it owed him something. Her phone buzzed in her pocket with a number that had no name. She let it buzz twice. 3 times. She didn't answer. She didn't want another voice in her head. She had her own, and it was loud enough. The door opened. A second figure stepped out with a case the size of a toolbox. She felt the answering weight of fear like a coin on her tongue. Not because of the case. Because there were 2. One was the test. She whispered to the dust. 2 is the plan. The second figure set the case on the truck's hood and popped the latches. The lid rose like a slow question. Inside, even in moonlight, she saw the shape that could make small messes into big ones. A relay, an uplink, teeth and tongue for signals no one wanted to hear. She slid backward, turned, and began to circle the basin wide to try for the downwind side. When the dry earth under her palm clicked like a glass under a spoon, she froze. Her breath became a rumor. The click became a whine. She had put her left hand on a pressure plate. You don't move. You don't jerk. You make a new idea of stillness. Her palm was warm on cold metal. The plate hummed in a pitch that said modern and homemade both. She closed her eyes once, brief, to say a word she didn't say out loud. She opened them and counted. Breath in 4, breath out 4. Again. Again. The night learned her rhythm and allowed it. Down in the basin, voices went on. Quiet, sure, the second figure, a woman. By the way she moved. Tested cables with the same patience the desert uses to make mountains. The man watched the road. He had the quiet of a predator who isn't hungry yet. Sopiha made a map of the plate with her skin. Thin edges, not much give. It would bite when relieved, not pressed. She had seen mouths like that. She slid her right hand into her pocket, slow enough to teach a snail envy. She found duct tape. She tore a thin strip with her teeth. A sound so small only the ants heard, and let the tape hang from her lip. Her left palm did not move. Her right hand uncoiled the extension cord from her belt, took 2 loops, made a small frame, padded it with tape, made a tiny splint for a pressure that could not bear truth. She slid the frame under 2 corners of the plate. Sweat crawled down her temple and thought it was clever. She ignored it. She cut her breath in half, lifted 1 millimeter, slid the frame deeper. The hum changed, curious, then settled back into its talking to itself pitch. She did the other side. 1 millimeter. The world shouted in silence. Her heart wanted to pound. She told it not to. It pouted and obeyed. When the frame held, she eased her palm away the way you ease your hand from under a sleeping dog. The plate didn't sigh. Good, it didn't complain, good.